Hello and welcome to this special edition dedicated to COVID-19 and our community responses to this pandemic. I am Carol Merton, and first I want to extend a sincere thank you to our Medical Officer of Health, the Public Health Unit staff, our community service providers and support agencies, our first responders, our hospitals, retirement homes, and long-term care facilities, and so many others for their prompt action and ongoing efforts to keep our community safe. We are all together in this exceptional and ever-changing situation. We are all neighbors doing our best to care for and support each other. Rogers TV will be providing you with current information from our community agencies and our elected officials. This information may change rapidly. To stay current with the situation, we encourage you to go on to the Public Health Unit website at publichealthgraybruce.on.ca, listen to the radio, and watch Rogers TV for updated information. Today, I am welcoming to the program Wayne Ritchie, who is the City Manager for the City of Owen Sound. And although Wayne and I connect with me wearing a different hat, which is City Councillor, today the hat I'm wearing is as a Rogers TV host and co-producer for this program. Wayne, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you've got lots of information to share. And as we chatted before the program, I said, this is your show. So you run with it. What I'm most interested in knowing is how the city has been responding and what sort of adjustments you had to make as far as all of the mandates that are coming down to us. So over to you, Wayne.
Okay, thanks, Carol. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here, although I wish it was under different circumstances. But for today, we will stick with how the city is functioning under COVID-19 and how well we're doing, and I believe our staff, but also our citizens are doing. So certainly we are listening to our senior levels of government, the federal, provincial governments. They are coming out with different regulations and advice almost on an hourly basis, and we are listening to that. We're also consulting with the Grey Bruce Health Unit that you mentioned, our county and other lower tiers in the area to make sure we're getting the best information we can, and then using all of that and our senior management, all of our management's team, understanding of how our city operates, and trying to make sure that, number one, we are protecting our citizens and our employees and still providing those essential, urgent, vital services. So I think we're doing a good job, but certainly we're always open to listening and doing a better job. So I will go through a little timeline here of kind of how this came to our attention and some of the steps we've taken. So on Friday, the Bayshore Recreation Center, the Julie MacArthur Regional Recreation Center, and the Public Works Building to the public. The following Monday, again, certainly things had changed over the weekend, as you said, for a while there. They were changing almost hourly. On Monday, City Hall was closed to the public. Council and committee meetings were canceled until further notice, and public events through basically to May 1st were canceled. Again, on Monday, March 16th, we started deploying staff in teams throughout the organization to reduce their exposure, and so that if we had any exposures, we weren't, quite frankly, having to have all of our staff isolated at once, so we could continue to provide those vital services. On Monday, March 16th, we decided the management team would meet every morning at 9 o'clock just to go over what had happened and what decisions we would make in that day again for the protection of the community. On Tuesday, March 17th, Mayor Boddy issued a message to the public. Again, I hope that's part of the communication to our public to make sure they're aware of what the city is doing and also what they can do to protect themselves and their friends, neighbors, and loved ones. Wednesday, March 18th, all city playground structures were closed to the public. We are still encouraging public in Owen Sound to get out and enjoy the outdoors if you do need some time out, but practice social distancing, but please stay off of the equipment. On Wednesday, March 18th, all non-essential staff were asked to work from home. and staff attending the buildings reduced to the absolute minimum. So currently we have about 30 staff working at home. So work does continue to go on where necessary, and our staff are, I can tell you, when I send out something looking for information, they get back to me almost immediately. So they are staying very aware of what's going on and helping out as they can. On Wednesday, March 18th, all public transit was free. Residents who ran out of bag tags were still able to pick up their garbage, and downtown parking enforcement was canceled. So we certainly want to make sure that someone who was sitting at home didn't have to go out for anything but a bag tag, did not go out for those purposes. And those people who have bag tags, we ask you still put them on, but we are picking up all of the garbage. The limits still apply, by the way, Carol. So it's still a 4-bag limit, but we wanted to make sure no one was going out just for a bag tag. Friday, March 20th, we decided that there would be no more interest run for penalty and interest on taxes or utility bills. There will be no cutoffs during this time. There will be no evictions for tax sale purposes. So we're certainly aware that these are trying times for everyone, and we don't want a financial burden to be on people who don't need that at this time either. On Wednesday, March 25th, Council held a special meeting so that they could hold future meetings electronically via telephone. We do need to get some decisions from Council, and some of these things we've discussed, the clerk will be bringing forward for Council adoption of those decisions. Wednesday, I'm losing track of where I am here now. Wednesday, March 25th, Mayor Body issued another message to the community to keep them all up to date so they understand what we're doing and why. On Friday, March 27th, the Mayor Body declares a state of emergency for Owen Sound due to COVID-19. I think at this point, literally after today, all the lower tiers as well as the county have declared a state of emergency. I could be wrong. So we also created a web page, a separate web page on the city's website around COVID-19 and steps the city are taking. People wanting advice on how they should protect themselves and their family, I strongly encourage them, as you did, go to the Grey Bruce Help Unit. They are the experts on that side of things and can give you the best advice. My advice certainly to staff and to all of us is practice social distancing. If you must go out, wash your hands. I can tell you I have oil of Olay here. My poor old soft accountant hands are really showing the wear of the constant washing. Stay aware of your surroundings. Be careful. And Dr. Eyre has said this in every meeting I've heard him have. Don't become fearful. So certainly, you need to be cautious. You need to be aware. You need to practice good hygiene and social distancing. But through this time, we have to avoid becoming fearful of our surroundings. So that's what the city is doing, Carol. Certainly, I feel we've done a good job of maintaining those services. Transit does continue. We are watching all of our services daily to see how we're doing. We certainly want to make sure that our public feels that they'll be well served during these times. That is what's gone on the last 2 weeks.
I know that for sure, even by your list, there has been a tremendous amount of prompt action on the part of the city. We're always seeming to get a new announcement almost every day. And already it seems that we can anticipate this to go on longer than perhaps initially. Do you foresee any future changes that you're at liberty to share? Or is this will be a matter of always adjusting as we go along based on the information we receive?
We're certainly receiving a lot of information. We do it the best of times, and we're certainly receiving a lot more information today. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with it all, Carol, but we are looking at it all. We're trying to be prudent.
Yes.
We're trying to take prudent steps without overreacting and understanding our business. No one knows the business of Owen Sound better than the team that we have here to say that information we've heard, how does that apply to Owen Sound? It may apply here differently than it does in Oakville or Chatsworth.
Sure.
So certainly other things will be coming. I can tell you we are looking at other longer term plans if this does play out, depending on how long it plays out, with partners. I'm not just at liberty today to tell you what all of those are, but
Right.
Absolutely, as much as we can, we are trying to anticipate what will happen based on all the information we're hearing and make sure that how we react and how we cope and how our city gets through this is in the best possible manner.
What I'm really hearing you say is there's a lot of action for the just-in-time changes that you need to make, but also a lot of planning for the maybe just-in-time things that you're anticipating. Who are the key players on the planning and the discussion? Who is, I'm going to use the phrase, who sits around the table, but it may not be exactly around a table at this moment.
Yeah, well, I will say certainly for our team, as you know from, as you said, your other hat, I rely strongly on my team. So the directors are with me on every decision. Quite frankly, they're the ones that implement much of the action plan. So with that, that's how we're operating within the city structure. But we are also discussing with like managers, with the province particularly. We're listening to the health unit. We're listening with the county and our partners there to say, how do we play with this together? The county has an emergency management plan. We're part of that. We all have our own. So the team is broad. It is wide, but as you know, for me, Carol, I like to operate by this task will be given to someone so that I have a point person, and I tell you, it is the directors and the senior managements here that report to me, how's this project going? What do they need? What support do they need from myself and from council? And so far, I think they've been getting it. But we meet every morning at 9 o'clock. We have the police chief on the call. The fire chief is here. All the directors, senior managers. We go around the table. We go around the phone. It's working, I think, very well for everyone understanding what the challenges are and what solutions collectively we're coming up with.
Exactly. And sometimes it's a matter of brainstorming just in that moment when something comes up, for sure. But you're meeting
an idea from wherever I can get it, Carol. You know that.
Yes. So it really is daily meetings, which is different. It's sort of much different than the regular business as usual. I mean, you would have meetings, but certainly my understanding is not daily. No. It's almost like command central at this moment where you have the key players making decisions and recommendations. What I'm hearing is how pleased that the community is on the prompt action, and certainly that the city, as always, is listening to the concerns. There have been positive feedbacks, certainly around the bag tag issue, but also about if there were any concerns raised around cleanliness or anything. And I didn't know if you wanted to speak to any of that yourself, Wayne.
Well, certainly as far as this city facilities, we're trying to keep exterior washrooms open where possible, making sure they are cleaned. Obviously, everyone understands the high touch places need to be, you can't clean them enough, simple as that. We're doing our best. We obviously understand when it gets right down to it, people need water, they need wastewater, they need their garbage picked up, they need police and fire. We've been very fortunate that the snow has been good to us. So even though our crews are ready, that would just add another element to this that quite frankly we don't need right now. So you did say, Carol, we are always opening to hear we can do better. It is a time too, and our public has been very good at this, understanding no one has all the answers. No one can give all the solutions to the challenges that come forward, but we are listening. Where there are solutions that we can help with or even provide, we're certainly going to do our best.
What would you ask of the community? I mean, it's obvious that the city and the city staff are working very, very hard to support our community. How can the community support you and the staff?
Yeah, I think there's a number of areas. Certainly go to the Grey Bruce Health Unit website for advice on how you can protect yourself and your family. Follow that advice. If you don't need to go out, we've heard it over and over again, but I don't think we as community leaders can support it enough. If you don't need to go out, stay home.
Yes.
That's probably the best advice any of us can follow until we hear from senior levels of government who are certainly have a broader perspective on how this is going on within the nation. Tell us we can start to go out again, perhaps loosen these. It may be weeks, it may be months, but follow the advice of our senior levels of government and our senior medical community. That's the advice I could give them, and be kind to each other, Carol.
Yeah. So it's really important, I think, for us to recognize that our life is different at the moment. We are prioritizing, and there may be issues that people are passionate about, but to understand that you have to prioritize when it becomes as basic as life and death in a pandemic. So if people have concerns, we're not asking them not to identify, but perhaps to consider the timing of the request. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Certainly. And we will get out of this. We all know that. And we don't want to lose, some of the momentum, quite frankly, that the city of Owen Sound was building. So anyone who has an idea, and perhaps sitting at home, there'll be some great ideas come out in the following months, don't hesitate to send them to myself or to any councillor. We're certainly still completing our list, and we are not going to say we're going to get to them in May or June, but we would always be opening to saying, when we're out of this, let's look at some of the ideas. There'll be some things that people have thought of in the last few weeks, in the coming weeks, that we'd never thought of before, a different perspective. And sometimes that's what's needed to have a different one. Yep.
And not to expect the city to have all of the answers, because sometimes the expectation is, well, they should know this. But like you said, Wayne, it's all of us putting our heads together and ideas coming that help find the solutions that work for people.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. I think some people maybe, and these are times where people think the city controls everything within city boundaries. And as you know, Carol, we don't. Our influence is in certain areas by the Municipal Act where we have responsibility for those areas. Other areas we don't. But if people have a concern, if they send it to the website, I get all of those, and I try to make sure that I do get back to people. Here's the city response, and if there's someone that's better prepared to answer that, I make sure that they get to the right people.
So Wayne, moving forward, council will continue to meet. Did you want to explain to the public about how they'll be able to tune in?
Sure. Certainly, Rogers is agreeing to cover council. We're having a new format. We haven't tried it yet, but I think our plan is to have the mayor at City Hall in council chambers, along with 2 members of council. The rest will be phoning in. We will have very limited staff there. The agendas, the way we're referring to them, Carol, they're going to be tight. So there'll be issues that council needs to deal with, whether they're time sensitive or just issues where we need direction for the public. We will be taking questions from the public, but we are asking that they send those questions to the clerk, and she will go over with the mayor and certainly try to get as many of them before them as they can. It will be different. We hope it will serve the purpose it's needed, and we honestly hope, Carol, that we won't have to do this for too long. But council will go on the regular schedule every other Monday night at 7 o'clock. Tune in to Rogers and stay involved in what's happening in the community.
So basically, deputations where there are people presenting will not occur. It will be important and time-sensitive business, but the opportunity, it will be public, and it will be, people will have the opportunity to forward questions that will be answered. And the questions, is there a time frame when the city clerk would like those questions in by? I know the agenda comes up in advance of the meeting, correct?
I would say if anyone has a question, you can't send it in too early. I don't have our timeline in front of me, but if you have a question, send it to the clerk via email, obviously, or mail it in, and she will make sure it gets on the roster, and we won't lose track of it.
Great. So, Wayne, I'm wondering if we can talk a little bit more about specifically the services that, the city is continuing to provide, and also whether people are still able and allowed to walk in the parks. I know that we're asking people not to use the playground equipment, but can you say what is currently going and then, thanks.
This is all based, again, on the best advice we're hearing, I'll be quite frank, nationally, even internationally, and applying it to Owen Sound. So we are encouraging people, if you need to get out for some exercise, and we do, particularly within the city limits, use our parks. Practice social distancing as you should, and but absolutely do not use the equipment, please. They can be carriers. It's just that we can't possibly keep them cleaned continually as they need to be. So we're just asking people not to use them. I should say today we decided, due to, quite frankly, probably some concerns about it being people not maintaining social distancing, we're closing the leash-free dog park effective today.
Okay.
So that's not open. Our boat launches are open. We had a concern about that, and again, responding to the public and hearing a good idea, we are going to be putting signage up, encouraging people to practice safe distancing as they launch their boats and they leave the site, and to wash your hands while you're down there and as you're out fishing. But for present time, the boat launches will be open to the public, and people can get some recreation that way. All our facilities remain closed. Your guess is as good as mine when we will be able to open those again. But I probably missed something there, Carol, but our City Hall obviously is closed, but staff are here. Please continue to consult with us via email and letters, phone calls. We will get back.
So if people call in and they get voicemail, just to leave a message, because they can't always expect to get someone live at the phone, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
People are working remotely from their homes, and so they will be checking voicemail, but it might be just a little bit different. So a little bit of patience is required for people, but the response has been timely.
Overall, Carol, I think, and I'll only speak for our business, people have been very reasonable, very patient. I think people at this point, they realize we are in this together, and being impatient quite frankly, isn't going to do anyone any good. So I can say 99.8% of the cases, people have been acting above and beyond what we normally would have expected. So kudos to them. I encourage them to keep it up, not only with the City of Owen Sound, but every place they're out. It is going to take a little longer when you're checking out the grocery store. Quite frankly, at least where I'm going, you're loading your own groceries for their safety and yours.
Yeah.
Be prepared to spend some more time there. I think it's marvelous that you mentioned earlier, all the frontline workers in essential services that up until this last 2 weeks, we probably didn't consider essential.
Yeah.
It's marvelous they're staying open, and it is vitally important, just as we're doing with our staff. They take every reasonable precaution to keep themselves safe. So act prudently, but don't be fearful.
What does calling an emergency or declaring an emergency really mean, Wayne, as far as business of a city?
Yeah, well, certainly our normal emergency plan, it's much different from this emergency. This is on our, I think we had always, as you know from attending some of our training sessions, we thought it would be more of a short-term, 3-hour, 3-day perhaps emergency specifically related to Owen Sound. Quite frankly, we'd always envisioned being perhaps weather-related. That's our biggest high factor in this area. In this particular case, it's really kind of odd, Carol. We have declared an emergency, but we're not, the emergency management team isn't meeting regularly. We're considering our 9 o'clock meeting with senior management as that meeting. Our emergency management coordinator, Heidi, as you know, is certainly documenting everything, and our site is up and running. But in this case, it's really hard to describe. Is there change in business from what we were doing prior to the declaration? Not so far, and I hope it remains that way, but it's given us more areas where we can act if we need to, and so far I don't think we need to.
So it basically allows the stage to be set for future actions.
That's correct.
But still there are responsibilities like making decisions public, like having meetings in public. None of that changes.
No, absolutely not. No.
Right.
Our meetings will still be open to the public. There are no decisions being made here that are hidden from the public.
Right.
Some of them will require your ratification at our next meeting, but none of them have been taken without the best thoughts and knowing that it is public information. We try to get that information out as soon as we can make the decision so that the public can rest assured their best interests are being looked after.
I must say, the leadership of our mayor, all of council and yourself, Wayne, and the city staff have been absolutely inspiring, actually, and very impressive. And certainly I, for one, as a community member, and that's another hat, I'm very grateful and certainly want to say thank you.
Oh, well, we appreciate that, Carol. I can tell you, in my experience with councils, all of us, and I include all of the councils I work for, always, even though we may have some differences on projects along the way and on policies along the way, I've never had a councilor yet that didn't have the greater community interest at heart, and certainly
Right.
as staff. So at times like these, it makes us look at one goal, and that is to get through this in the most prudent, safe manner for everybody. And I've never felt anything but council support working through this. So it's appreciated from our side to council as well.
Wayne, what are you hearing as far as the staff, their success stories, things that they may comment, I saw this happen or that happen, and wow, I was, pleased to see this. What are you hearing?
Well, number one, we don't have many staff in the building, Carol. So I can tell you, I'm not hearing a lot eyeball to eyeball. I still get through the building to see who's here twice a day. I stay my distance from them.
Yes.
But I will say, for instance, on Friday, and this was planned. We are trying to also, as a senior management team, we can't be all in here together. If we ever are, I'm using the word touched by this, we don't want to be all touched at the same time, and we're all isolated for 14 days. But I think what I'm impressed with, and I said it to you, I am hearing little anecdotal information from staff via email. I can't remember now off the top of my head all the great stories, but what I can tell you is, and this is the first we've really got into large numbers of people working from home on a long-term basis. But how quickly, when I say, gee, I need this information, I send it out. I can tell you, again, 19 times out of 20, I have it back quicker than almost when I hit the send button, it's back to me. So they are very observant, and it will, and I'm not sure I had this conversation with you, there's no doubt about it. This will change the way we operate in the future. Yeah. All businesses, I think it would made us look at these ideas that you go, well, that's nice, I'm not sure how practical it is. I think when we get out of this, we'll start looking at that idea of.
Exactly. Wayne, I can't believe our time is up.
Oh, golly.
I want to thank you.
Quickly.
Yeah, I want to thank you so much for joining us today and certainly filling us in on how things are moving. And I want to thank our viewing audience for joining us today on on this special edition of COVID-19. Please take care, stay safe, and stay healthy. Bye for now.
Bye, Carol.